This video is the continuation of the lesson for class 8 for the subject of chemistry, topic decomposition reaction, which is covered in chapter 2, chemical changes and reactions, and is being submitted to you on 12th April 2021. So students, in the second audio for today's lesson, we will discuss the second types of reaction, which is decomposition reaction. So in a decomposition reaction, a compound takes into two or more simpler substances. During decomposition, energy is required to break the bonds between the atoms of a molecule. Thus, decomposition may occur in the presence of heat or light or by passing electric current. Now we will discuss the sub-points of decomposition reaction. So first one is decomposition of a compound into two or more elements. So here there are some examples are given on decomposition of compounds into two or more elements on page number 6 of the notes, which is sent on 12th April 2021, from which I will discuss the two examples. So number one example, you may observe here that when you will decompose the mercuric oxide in the presence of heat, it will decompose into mercury, which is in liquid state, and the oxygen gas, which is in gaseous form. Similarly, in the second example, that when you will decompose the silver chloride in the presence of sunlight, it will decompose in the presence of sunlight, and it will give product silver and chlorine, which is in solid and liquid state. Similarly, on decomposition of water by the passing the electric current, it will decompose into hydrogen molecules and oxygen molecules. Now we will discuss the second part, which is the decomposition of a compound into both elements and compounds. So here you may observe the example of this. When you will decompose the sodium nitrate in the presence of heat, it will provide you compound which is sodium nitrate and oxygen element. Now move on the third part, which is decomposition of a compound into two or more new compounds. So here you may observe this by an example, which is on decomposing the zinc hydroxide in the presence of heat. It will decompose into two products, two new compounds, which is zinc oxide and water molecules. Similarly, when you will decompose the green color ferrous sulfate crystal, which is FeSO4.7H2O, it will give you white salt of ferrous sulfate with the liberation of water molecules. Or students, on further heating the ferrous sulfate, which is in white color, it will give you ferric oxide with the liberation of sulfur dioxide and sulfur trioxide gas. Now we will discuss the thermal decomposition. Thermal is a word which is related to heat. So this decomposition reaction takes place in the presence of heat, and the products formed do not combine back on cooling. So only those compounds decompose on heating that are less stable. More stable compounds do not decompose on heating, and elements which are more reactive form more stable compounds. Now we will discuss the next topic, which is the reactivity series of elements. Students, this is a very important topic. So, what is it? The arrangement of metals in decreasing order of reactivity in the form of a series is called reactivity series of metals. So, you just observe on page number 7 of the notes where the reactivity series have been drawn. So by this you may observe that on going down the reactivity of metals is decreasing, like in potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, they are going down. So reactivity series of metal will be decrease. And the secondly, what you will observe that the metals at the top, which is the potassium and sodium, are most reactive and their compounds are very stable, right? And the third, which you will observe, that the metals in the middle like iron, zinc, lead, are moderately reactive. They will react but less reactive. Now the metals at the bottom like mercury, silver and gold are least reactive metals. They form very unstable compounds. So students, you will have to learn this reactivity series. Only then you will be able to solve the chemical equations, right? Now we will discuss the decomposition of metal hydroxides. In this there is two exceptions, that potassium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide do not decompose and are stable to heat. And there are some also examples are given over here on the page number 8 of the notes, which is sent on 12th April 2021, that when the decomposition of metal hydroxide take place, it will form water vapor and metal oxide. One thing also remember that on decomposition of metal hydroxides of less reactive element, which is of silver hydroxide and mercury hydroxide, it will give metal with the liberation of oxygen gas and water molecules. These two exceptions you have to learn. Now we will move on the decomposition of metal carbonates. We have discussed the metal hydroxides decomposition. Now we will discuss the decomposition of metal carbonates, means CO3. Right? So here is also exceptions, that potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate do not decompose and these are stable to heat. And some of the examples are given on the page number 8, through which you may be able to understand the decomposition of metal carbonates, that whenever the decomposition of metal carbonates take place, it will form metal oxide and carbon dioxide gas will release. There is also a two exception, that when on decomposition of mercury carbonate and silver carbonate, it will take a complete decomposition. It will form metal, decompose into metal, oxygen gas will liberate and carbon dioxide gas is also liberate. It means it will take as a complete decomposition. Now we will discuss the decomposition of metal bicarbonates, right? Like HCO3, HCO2, like this. So in this, when you will decompose the metal bicarbonates like sodium hydrogen carbonate, on decomposition, it will give you sodium carbonate, which is metal carbonate, and obviously water and carbon dioxide will liberate. So there are also some examples are given on the page number 9, through which you will be able to understand the decomposition of metal bicarbonates. So students, now I will give you very short questions. You will get a 3 minutes break to write the answers. So question number 1 is, name a gas released when sulfuric acid react with zinc metal. Question number 2, what color of precipitate will form when copper sulfate react with sodium hydroxide? And the last question number 3 is, give one reaction of decomposition of metal carbonate. So students, now pause this audio for 3 minutes and write the answers in your chemistry notebook. I hope you all have written the answers by now. Let us check the answers now. So answer number 1 is hydrogen. Answer number 2 is blue color precipitate of copper hydroxide. And the last answer number 3 is CaCO3 on decomposition will give CaO plus CO2. Students, now I am ending the lesson for today by giving instructions and homework. So instructions are, you all are required to listen the audio again and revise all the topics which we have done today. And the homework for today is do questions 5, 6, 7 from exercise 2A of your chemistry notebook. Thank you and have a nice day.